The words that I'm hearing is the shift has already happened. Change has already happened. We're already feeling the shift and change of the frequency. We have just walked through another portal of which that the earth has changed its vibration, and so have humanity that lives upon the earth. And what I'm being asked to bring forward to you and to share with you is what I've been unraveling and seeing within myself and around me, and to understand what I've been taught and almost seeing it in a different light and for the truth. And if you're new here, I'm Candace. I am a channel of consciousness and whoever wants to come through, multidimensional beings, and I just allow it to move through me. So what I'm being asked to show is just what I'm unraveling and seeing within myself and around the world. And that is around the idea of this good and bad, and this light and darkness, and the negative entities. And what I'm starting to understand and see is more of a truth. And we've always been taught in a way that, you know, dark entities can attach to us, and we need to protect our energy, and we need to do all these clearings and so forth. But I'm beginning to unravel a different truth under the undercurrent of what lies below this idea of what we've been told and made to believe. And especially the one around the dark entities that live in this world, and that we have to be careful of our energy. And what I'm more understanding it is that what we have seen it is as though they are outside of ourselves, and they are separate of us, and then they attach to our physical being, our energetic body, and they take our energy. But I don't believe that to be true. And what I've started to unravel is seeing that it is not something separate of us that attaches to our energetic body and takes from it. It's shadow aspects. It is shadow fragment aspects of our soul that the individual person can manifest and create as though it is a different entity and it is separate of it. And if you almost look with your third eye to see what is around someone, you will see almost a separate dark figure, and that looks like it is separate of them. But what you do not see is that is a manifestation of their reality. They have created as though it is separate of, because in truth, in order to not allow it to be separate of them, then they have to see those parts, that is a part of them. And that is hard for us who live in our ego, and for those who live in their ego, to see those aspects of self that is actually truly a part of them. And so they create a divide, and they push it away from their essence, from their core, and they put it on the outskirts of their energy field and create a divide and a separateness. The other aspect of these dark shadow figures is that how they present and how they move is actually unique to the individual. That individual soul has created this manifestation. And in the creation of this manifestation of this shadow figure that is pushed away from their essence, from their core body, there is an ability to create it as though it's an entity of itself, that it has its own free will, it has its own verbiage, language, its own thought process. And that's where it allows it to be a monster and something that is not of you. And that is where the density of this world has been manifested, because the introduction of the idea of good and evil, the introduction of religion in a way that was created in a form to control, was to create these separate aspects of self, because there was so much rejection of the old ways of being, of the connection to nature, the connection to other consciousness, the connection to multidimensional beings. And so what has happened with that implementation in order to control humanity is that the soul fragments and aspects has been pushed further away, because in order to embrace and bring that into you is to step into your own power and sovereignty, which is exactly what those empowered do not want. They do not want you to be in your sovereignty, in your power, when you see truth, when you feel truth, and when you stand in your truth. And so the creation of religion was to separate oneself from soul fragments of what our essence is, and to create a divide within our energetic body. And this is where it talks about that spiritual warfare, where it creates this divide within our energetic body to push these soul fragments further away on the outskirts of our energy field, away from our essence, away from our core, because then we are easily controlled. We are easily able to be manipulated and moved, and we are not truly in our light. And when you look at those who are deep in addiction, and they are deep in their ego, and they are deep in their darkness, and they have in a way broken their spirit, their power, you see in their eyes that there is a dark shadow. You see that the light leaves their eyes, their essence, because that is a window into their essence, and you see the darkness, the fog that comes over. It is not that something's taken them over. It is purely that more of their essence, more of their soul fragments in their core is pushed further and further away from their being. And so they are more, their spirit within is more broken apart and not held within strength and standing within their power. And so the idea of that these shadow figures that almost can take over the body because they see it as a separate entity of themselves, of them true selves, is when you see that darkness, and that is when you even see those who deal with some deep, and it's almost like you can see like that, and just something changes and something else takes over from them. And we've almost created that narrative of which that is some entity taking over their essence in their body. But what if in truth that was actually the dark shadow that they are rejecting, that is taking over their physical body because they have created it into a monster that is separate of themselves. And so if you look around the world, you will see so many who are still in the darkness, who are still deep in their shadow. They are still not alchemized and not brought forward their shadow aspects and seen them and give them love. And that is why there is so much density in this world. And that is why some of that narrative around that shadow work is so important, but the importance of not becoming lost and recognizing that the shadow work is actually seeing those shadows, bringing that shadow close. And when you bring it close, the veil is lifted, and you see that in truth, what is looking back at you was just you, and the shadow aspects were just a mirror for you to see you. And once you're able to see it as a mirror, and it is just you looking back at you, then you are able to receive it into your essence, into your body with love and alchemize. And that is when that shadow is illuminated with light, and that is when the light shines through your eyes and shines through your face and your being and your essence. And that's when people feel your vibration, because these soul fragments have been alchemized and allowed to penetrate deep within your body and your essence and your core, and now be a part of you rather than separate of you. And so those shadows have been lit up with light frequency, and that is when your vibration changes. And that is why we must not get lost in the shadow and the darkness, but allow it to alchemize and receive it with love, and bring these aspects of self, the ones that we've rejected and that we see as dark, and to bring them and see what are they reflecting back at us, to see what wound are they reflecting back at us, to recognize and alchemize and receive that and illuminate that with love and light, and allow that to enter your body and your essence, and then it is not separate of you. It is just you moving in your unique energy form. And so the idea of almost good and bad almost becomes non-existent, and that is purely energy. An energy that has more power that we can express, energy that has more softness and lightness, but energy that has a little bit more oomph, which is those shadow aspects of ourselves that usually have a little bit more fire, they have a little bit more power, they have ability to propel us in life forward, which is that new 5D frequency where we are able to manifest effortlessly, which requires the power, the action that can propel our bodies into this new timeline. And so it almost feels like the idea of these negative beings or these negative entities is a way to keep us from alchemizing these parts of self, alchemizing the shadow aspects and allowing us to see it and give it love, because there's so much a rejection of what is considered evil, and yet it is purely a narrative that is being presented to us in order to keep us from actually accessing that beautiful fiery power that we all have, that it is meant to be a part of our essence, our core of our being. And so that is the way. That is a way of stepping into this new earth, of realizing and dissolving away the idea of what is negative and what is good and bad, and just seeing that anytime that anyone reflects something back at us that find us uncomfortable, and we're like, we are that, and we almost go into the superiority as though that, but I am enlightened, I am whole, I am love, and then you see them as though that they are in their ego. But purely, if you are truly enlightened and loved, you will not see it as that they are in any negative, but you will just see that they still haven't alchemized their wounds. And if that triggers your essence, that means that there's more for you to alchemize. And so the beauty of that reflection of seeing others who are not yet alchemizing those wounds, and it reflects back at you because they project their own wounds out, because they haven't found that ability to alchemize those wounds. If it still triggers you, then there is a part of you that is wanting to be seen, that they are mirroring back. And so truth, nothing that people are, even when they're not even in their full light body, they haven't alchemized these shadows and they aren't in their full enlightened being, if they are, we get to allow them to be on their path, but also they allow us an opportunity to see the parts of which we still need to alchemize and allow us to bring into our essence and further fill our being with light and love. And what they're showing to me of the importance of this message is this is a new way. And we have to see these narratives and dissolve these belief systems in order to walk forward and to release the idea of what is good and what is evil, and just see it as light and dark. And know that the dark is also necessary for the light, and we need some power and oomph, and there needs to be some aspects of self that has an ability to drive our body forward. Because if we are just in peace and love and surrender and flow, then sometimes people don't move and they don't do action, and they don't hear the things that are calling on them to actually step forward. And this is the new way, seeing that these shadow aspects are not monsters. They are never separate of ourselves, but there are some others who actually choose to create them as though they have their own personality, But no, they are not negative entities that are separate of you, but they are just soul fragments that you have created to have its own voice, because the separateness allows you to stay in the idea that they are not a part of you. And all it wants, all that shadow aspect wants, is for you to bring it closer and look. And then the veil will be lifted, and you'll see what's looking back at you is you. And you'll see that in the end it was purely a mirror. A mirror for you to see the wounds that are still present in your physical, energetic body, that are wanting to be called forward, seen with love, and alchemized within your essence and in your core. And that is when you shift and change your vibration, but also anchored in your power, in your truth. When we alchemize these parts, we realize that they were power that we were waiting to access in their balanced form. And if you are still here, I hope this illuminated some parts of these stories that we have been told, so that you can see it in your truth and you can see others in your truth, and allow them to be, if they are still heavily attached to those shadows as being separate, those dark parts of themselves being separate, and if it triggers you, see it as an opportunity to see and learn something new within yourself, and just see that that is a mirror to look within and to illuminate some parts that are waiting to be seen and met with love. And that is when you shift and change your being, which continues to change the consciousness collectively, which continues to change and shape the vibration of Mother Earth. And I hope that this assisted you in seeing the darkness that was always here to be created so that we could be controlled, but we are choosing to see it in its truth. And that's when we step forward in our power and in our light, when we see those stories that we've been told for many centuries, and we see the truth. And the truth is what is going to shape the new world. Truth. And I send you love, and I thank you for still being here with me.